Ted, do you believe you have a soul?
What did you think I would do at this moment when you're standing before me with tears in your eyes? That answer your question?
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Fanzone Debate. We're here for a big one. It's an exciting one. It's a title match. I'm Tim. Got Mark and Kirk here with me. Looking forward to this because Adelaide Spence has made their way to a title match, beating Javi in the number one contenders match to earn their spot here. But they don't have an easy match ahead of them. They're going up against Joe. Joe won the vacant belt against Robert. You know what they say about vacant belts. They're still belts. But some people also throwing out there that maybe you gotta defend that belt, really earn it there. I think Joe has earned it, but we'll see if he can kind of go up against Spence, cement his name as a Fan Zone champion. Looking forward to it. Mark, how are you, my friend? What do you think of this matchup and this journey to get here today?
I think it's a really neat matchup, honestly. I don't believe I was there around for, the Joe Robert matchup. So like seeing title match with Joe and Adelaide is going to be really, really neat. It's like it's new blood everywhere. Like it's people that I don't think we're usually accustomed to seeing up until this point. And, I think either way, we're going to have a fun champion here.
Yeah, absolutely. Kirk, you dropped said belt, then Joe picked up said belt. Do you think Joe's going to keep it, or do you think Adelaide can give Joe a run for his money?
I think it's going to be a great match. These are two competitors who we've all watched kind of come into their own the past few seasons. And it's been really exciting to see two players who love the game, take it seriously, and have worked hard to get to this spot. So I'm really happy and glad to see both of them here. If Joe is able to defend, and like you said, kind of cement himself as the new guy that everybody needs to take down, that'll be awesome. If Spence finally, gets to the top of the mountain and wins the title, that'll be awesome too. So I'm just excited to see these guys play at this level.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to bring in the players and get started. Here's how it's going to work. So the players drafted categories. We gave them questions based on those categories. They're going to debate them tonight before our very souls. So each player is going to get a 1 minute opening, followed by a 5 minute freeform, followed by a 1 minute closing at the end of the debate. Kirk, Mark, and I will write on our boards who we thought won the debate. 2 out of 3 votes will win you a point. And because it is a title match, the first player to 4 will win the match. So we have 5 prep questions. Should we get through all of those and we are at a 3-2 score, we will go to a bonus round to find out who will win the match. 2 bonus questions if we need them. So Adelaide and Joe, any questions or anything you want to say to each other? You want to throw out there before we start?
Just
always. Do I sound okay?
Phenomenal.
Always good luck. Especially to Spence, because Spence is great.
Joe's high. I root for him most matches, not today.
All right, let's get into it. All right, we are going to kick this off with the first question. It was drafted in the category of classics. This was drafted by Mr. Farrelly in the category of classics. The question is, what is the funniest physical comedy moment in a Charlie Chaplin film? Joe, you get to go first because you drafted this. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
There are funny scenes in cinema, and then there's the boxing scene in City Lights. 6 minutes of absolute comedic perfection. This is Charlie Chaplin operating like a magician, but disguised as a coward. Every movement is precise, every shuffle, every spin, every duck, every panic-stricken glance lands with impeccable timing. The tramp enters the ring, and what follows is not simply slapstick, it's survival choreography. You watch the way he circles the referee, or how he clings to that bell for emotional support. The tiny moments where he tries to smile through absolute terror or avoid a 40-mile-per-hour punch. The brilliance is that this entire scene just keeps escalating. Just when you think Chaplin has exhausted every possible gag you can have in a boxing ring, he invents another one. The synchronized dancing around the ring, the fake handshakes, the hiding, the frantic footwork, everything that goes on when the bell wraps around his neck and it's ding, round starts, ding, round ends. It's not random chaos. It's controlled panic turned into art, and it is hilarious.
Time. All right. We are going to move on to Adelaide. Adelaide, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
There are very few things as rewarding as a film fan than seeing where greatness originated. A perfect example of that to me is Modern Times, and the scene that possibly serves as the greatest example of the origin of physical comedy as a partner of filmic storytelling is when the tramp is sucked into the machine at his factory. Even before we get to that, we get a precursor to the most famous I Love Lucy scene of the chocolate factory. The tramp must furiously keep up with the conveyor belt, moving it faster than he can as he runs up and down the side of it, barreling over his coworkers to try and keep up. When this fails, he ends up inside the machine itself. It's a wonderful bit of practical set design with music that sounds straight out of Alice in Wonderland, where he continues to adjust every bolt he can. Chaplin's excellence as a comedian is on display here, as he is able to perfectly articulate his face to convey the ridiculous situation he's in, as well as his tightly panicked muscles as he runs around trying to do his absolute best for his job. This scene, I think, perfectly captures the blend of how difficult silent comedy can be, and Chaplin is at his best as a master of it in this scene specifically.
Time. Okay, great. 5 minute freeform when one of you starts talking. I will throw up the 1 minute warning when the time comes. If you're talking too much, not letting your opponent talk, well, I'm going to tell you to let your opponent talk. So 5 minutes when one of you starts talking.
I think one of the biggest issues I have with your scene is that the supporting players don't have that ability that Chaplin does. However, when you look at the scene in City Lights with the referee and the opponent, I think they're all just in perfect synchronization. When the champ is just moving behind the referee to avoid the opponent, and then putting those sneaky punches in, you get to then it escalates that next part where they both sort of go down at the same time, and the rest counting for one of them, and then he stands up and turns around, and the tramp's down, he's counting for that, and the guy falls down again. It just keeps going back and forth. I think the supporting players really add to the physical element of that, whereas in your scene, they're not quite as honed in their skills.
I think you're focusing on an aspect of your scene that mine just flat out doesn't have. You're like, oh yeah, mine is supporting characters that are relevant. That's not the point of my scene. Mine is Charlie Chaplin as his own figure who is incredible. He uses the other actors as props. I think that's to the benefit of my scene. They are not people that you're trying to bounce off of. He does a bit where he cranks the nose of one of his coworkers. It's kind of like a very Three Stooges vibe, and it's great because that's all that's asked of that performer. You are saying yours is oh, mine's better because it has more people, and I don't think Chaplin is as good in your scene as he is in mine. Just because you have more does not make it the better scene overall. I think Chaplin is more refined and much more talented in what he's doing in Modern Times, whereas in City Lights, it's the same type of physical comedy repeated over and over and over. It's punch, circle, dance. It's the same thing for 5 minutes. It is the same joke. I'll give you the wrapping the bell around the neck. That's good. But everything else is very similar. And I'm not laughing the whole time. I'm laughing for 1 minute and then bored for the next 4.
No, because you have the synchronized movements of him hiding behind the referee. Then you have him sneaking the punches in. Then you have the scene where they both go down and the referee that slapstick element of that. And then you have the bell wrap around the scene where he keeps ringing the bell so the rounds are starting over and over again. But the point of the matter is not that it has more because of the supporting characters. The supporting characters are adding to that because they are in sync with Chaplin. I think the other issue with your scene, the big moment, the cherry on top of it is him getting sucked into that machine, but he is just laying flat, going through the cogs, and then the shot is reversed. He's not doing that bit. That shot is reversed, and he's just.
Okay, I'm sorry that he's not a fucking snake. I'm sorry that he has a spine.
Just saying,
that just ruined the scene somehow.
The physicality required, he is laying flat, and the shot is reversed. That is not. I don't see that as the.
That's undermining the Buster Keaton bit where the barn falls on him and he barely avoids certain death. I'm sorry that practical film effects are somehow less entertaining, the brilliance of it. The set itself is what's funny. The situation is funny because the fact that he has a spine and needs to use his fucking bones does not make the scene that much less funny. He is still incredible at what he's doing, and the physical emoting that he's doing with his face and with his body even though he's not crawling through there like under fucking barbed wire at war. There is incredible things going on there that you're just intentionally ignoring.
But that's exactly the point. I think he's got these things in your scene to help carry him, whereas in the boxing scene, there's nothing carrying him. There's no giant prop swallowing whole. The humor is generated entirely by timing, movement, and performance, and that's the physical aspect of it. I think the boxing scene, it changes, it evolves, and I think the physical humor makes sense to the scene, with the quick stepping behind the ref, and Chaplin desperately fighting for the belt. I think your scene, certain stuff, especially with him going off and sort of tweaking and then going outside and sort of turning everything with the wrench, it sort of distracts from the rest of the scene, because the beauty of modern times is its satirical nature, about being pulled into the machine, about the sort of the mechanization of the workforce. That's the beauty and the comedy of that scene, but it's not in the physicality, it's in the satirical nature of the scene.
I want to go back to what you said. I think you said something about how, like, oh, the set design is carrying the humor. I think that's fucking ridiculous. Like, when you're saying, like, when you're highlighting the bit of, like, oh, these other performers, I have them right here, Hank Mann and Eddie Baker, like, oh yeah, they're also doing great stuff. How are they not carrying Chaplin? How are these additional actors not the ones basically leading him to being funny? But somehow my set design undermines the incredible physical ability of my performer, of my version of Chaplin.
Because they're being
like, when you're focusing on, like, oh, but it's actually, like, very heady, and the reason it's good is because of, like, the thematics. It's still a Charlie Chaplin movie. I didn't pick The Great Dictator. I didn't pick Limelight. It's still hysterical. It's still objectively funny. And the way that he influences future comedians in the brilliance of that comedy, I think, is so special. Your scene is like one of the better scenes of a forgotten Chaplin film, because no one cares about it. Everyone cares and adores my scene. And that's exemplary of why it's been so influential in the future.
Fine. Okay, we're going to start closings with Adelaide. Adelaide, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
Charlie Chaplin is one of the greatest comedians to ever touch film. And I think that is shown very clearly in modern times. Beyond the fact of what Joe's saying about why the script is incredible and why the thematics are great, his humor in this scene specifically is why we have such fun movies today. I think the way that he influences, again, I already mentioned I Love Lucy and Three Stooges, but even people like Mel Brooks, like the leaning of the physical comedy, it is so influential. And it's not just like, oh, it was old. It is so funny. It is still funny. You can watch it today and have a great time. I literally watched it in a high school film class, and we were all fucking crying laughing because it still works. Chaplin's brilliance as a physical comedian is on display here today, whether it's adjusting bowls or getting sucked through the machine at his factory. There is something there to his talent that is so undeniable that we keep coming back to it almost 100 years later. The scene in City Lights, there are bits that are good, but at the end of the day, I don't want 5% of my film's running time to be the same 3 jokes done in perpetuity over and over and over and over and over and over and over.
Let's go over to Joe. Joe, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
The boxing scene represents Chaplin at the absolute height of his powers, because everything depends on performance, not spectacle, not machinery, not visual tricks, pure physical comedy. Every laugh is earned through timing, choreography, and interaction. The terrified footwork, the relentless aggression, the referee's growing frustration, all 3 performers working together with unbelievable precision. The camera wisely stays still and lets the comedy unfold naturally, trusting its environment rather than hiding behind clever editing. And that's why that scene feels timeless. I think by comparison, the machine scene relies heavily on concept and imagery. The joke is largely the situation itself. Funny at first glance, but once you understand the sort of visual idea, there's far less escalation, less invention, and less character-driven physical comedy. The boxing scene keeps building. It evolves every second. The gags change, and they get funnier each time. One scene is a clever visual gag. The other is 6 uninterrupted minutes of pure physical comic mastery. It's the gold standard for physical comic.
Okay. Gonna bring in the judges.
Hey, Tim, can I hear the question again?
Of course. What is the funniest physical comedy moment in a Charlie Chaplin film?
Yeah, I could have definitely done that better then. So, Joe, you only picked this so that I couldn't pick some other, like, obscure classic shit, right?
No, I just finished watching The Kid. And
decent things.
I was like, yeah, let's do some Chaplin. I don't think I've heard a debate on Chaplin before in this thing. So
I mean, you could pick erotic thrillers. You hadn't heard that one up until like a day or so ago.
That's true. That's true. But that match hadn't aired when I picked the.
Yeah. It's an incredible category that we all know so well.
Hey, I'm just saying, because of the copyrights and all that, all these Chaplin films you just get on YouTube, all in their almost entirety. It's awesome.
All right. This is good. This is good. I don't know a lot about Chaplin. Not gonna lie. So this is a lot going based off the arguments, and as with funniest, usually I'm looking to kind of see what's making me chuckle. But I felt like both did a good job, and both kind of gave me a good idea of like what the scene was and why it was funny in the different types of ways. I ultimately went with Spence. I felt like Joe did a good job of explaining to me why his scene was funny, and Adelaide did a good job of kind of breaking that down and being like, it might be funny at first, but it gets monotonous and it's just kind of the same thing over and over and over again. And then by the end, when Joe was like, it's 6 uninterrupted minutes, I was like, that sounds like a lot, and that like it wouldn't be very funny. So I went with Spence. Mark, tell me why I'm very wrong.
Okay. This would be interesting. I did actually end up going with Joe.
Oh.
I feel like, honestly, I mainly gave the points to Joe because I think that Joe attacked the question most of all. Like it was, we asked for the funniest physical comedy moment, and I feel like Joe did a decent job. I think at least poking enough holes into Spence's scene to where I think at least Joe kind of pointed out that his is a fun, where Adelaide's is a funny scene. Joe's scene, I think, invokes like more of the physical comedy that like Chaplin is known for.
Okay. Kirk, where are you going?
Spence, have those terrible towels always been there, or you just hang them up because you knew I was judging?
I just moved here. I don't know sports.
Whose autograph's on that one? The Hall of Fame one?
That's a good question. I got no clue. It says 43 on it.
Troy.
Oh, it's Troy Polamalu.
Nice. Okay, I won't let that sway me either way. No, it was a good. It was a good fight. I think they both, like you guys said, both came of it from different ways. They both picked different, very different things. They're both funny scenes, but funny in different ways. One person I think just did a better job of controlling the fight, and that was Spence. I think that Joe did a good job explaining why his was the most physical, or the best example of the physicality in the choreography. And Spence did a really savvy thing where Joe tried to make that the argument, and Adelaide immediately shut that down and said, no, it's still physical, even though it may not have the preciseness of yours. It's still a physical scene. It's still comedy. I think if the question had been like best choreography or best staged or most physical, I think Joe did a great job of explaining that, but I think Spence did just a little bit better job explaining why their scene was funnier.
All right, so Adelaide is up 1-0. A lot of game left as we get into the next question, which was in the category of romance. Question is, what is the best couple in a Nicholas Sparks romance film? Kirk's favorite. We are going to start with Adelaide. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
I'm picking Ira and Ruth in The Longest Ride. An idyllic depiction of young love, Ira falls in love with Ruth at first sight. Jack Houston and Una Chaplin play this young couple perfectly. Falling for each other quickly in 1940, she ran from Austria to find safety from the Nazis and discovers him at their local synagogue. Within a year, they are engaged. We see their love blossom in those brief months as she develops his appreciation for modern art and embracing her culture. However, Ira is soon sent to defend America in the war. When he returns, he has to regretfully tell Ruth that he was injured in battle and is physically incapable of having kids, despite it being her biggest desire in life. They grow through these struggles, with Ira even telling Ruth, I want you to be happy, even if that happiness no longer includes me. That's a direct quote from the movie. And gives her the opportunity to choose a life without him when kids are no longer an option. And yet she still chooses him. And he writes her love letters every day up until her death in 2007. These two perfectly captured the idea of loving through adversity and not promising your life to who you married at that moment, but dedicating your lives to each other as you grow into newer versions of yourself. And my time.
Oh, you did it faster that time. I mean, what are you talking about? All right, let's go over to Joe. Joe, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
For me, no relationship in a Nicholas Sparks film feels more powerful or emotionally authentic than Landon and Jamie in A Walk to Remember. Because the best love stories are not simply about romance, they're about transformation. And for anyone, so Landon is a reckless teenager forced into community service after a prank goes wrong, and Jamie is the quiet minister's daughter he barely notices. Deeply kind and intelligent and completely outside his social circle. What begins as sort of this reluctant closeness, it just grows, and they have this big blossoms, this beautiful connection, and she gives direction and purpose to someone who is drifting through life, while Landon gives Jamie joy and confidence and adventure, and they experience this truly lovely, devoted time during the limited time she has left when she reveals that she's terminally ill. And that's precisely why they are such a remarkable couple, because we don't simply watch two attractive people fall in love, we watch two people become better because of each other. Their relationship has emotional weight because every stage of it is earned.
Time. I don't know if I'm allowed to ask this, but Mandy Moore, yeah? In that movie? Who's the guy?
I've already forgotten it.
Shane West.
That's
some fucking guy.
All right. Okay. I was trying to remember if they were attractive or not. Okay. 5 minutes. One of you start.
I think the biggest issue with your movie is, like, I understand that, like, oh, he grows into being a good person. I do not want Landon to get anything worth anything at the beginning of the film. I don't care who he becomes. The movie opens with him pushing a kid nearly to his death. You start it with a near fucking homicide, and then it's, oh, but he's okay because he stops almost killing people. And then it's, oh, here's this really great girl who has everything that she is like very self-motivated and she's happy on her own. And then one of their first interactions is that when they're in the play together, after he nearly kills the kid, the principal is like, oh yeah, you gotta go be in the play, which is a stupid fucking punishment. During the play, he kisses her with that not being in the script. He assaults Jamie as one of their early interactions together. This is a piece of shit kid. I don't care about the relationship after. How it starts is him.
I'm sorry, but this is the argument about the best couple, and at those points they're not a couple. So everything you said before that is irrelevant. It's what they become afterwards. My problem with Ira and Ruth, firstly, you only see this is all flashbacks through Ira's letters. So the view of the couple is already skewed, and when the couple actually gets interesting, it cuts away because she comes back to him after he allows her to leave, and she comes back, and then it's like, after that, we never argued again, and then we skip 50 years and she dies. That's not, and for me, that's not the best couple, because the speech doesn't even make sense. Because, like, I just want you to be happy, and I'm willing to do what it takes to make you happy, even if that means you leaving. But the reason she wants to leave is because he won't adopt this abused kid, and he's like, nah, I'm not going to do that. I want you to be happy, and I'll do anything. I'm not going to do that though. The whole relationship.
That is blatantly incorrect. The point of that scene is him saying that we can't do it because we won't win. As much as I would like to, and I want to take care of Daniel, the fact that he is living with blood relatives and they will fight, they actively fight over, like, the Daniel's half brother is like fighting to keep him. Any love that Daniel receives, he is upset about. What Ira knows is that if they fight this, they will lose, and it'll only cause Ruth more pain. It is saving her from further harm. And I think that what you're saying about only seeing it through Ira's eyes is ridiculous. Because number one, I think the love through his eyes is incredible. Like the language that he uses in his writing is really beautiful. one of the ones that I highlighted was that kiss. Our first kiss was a promise of everything to come. That's not bullshit Nicholas Sparks writing. That's like genuinely good writing.
I am engaged with that relationship. It makes her an idealized version of what she actually is. It takes away her agency, whereas with Landon and Jamie, you see them both growing at the same time. You see them both changing, the influence that they have on each other. I don't want to see a couple that's basically happy throughout go through this little struggle, and then it gets to a point where actually I want to see where this relationship goes now, because they've hit this point. They hit this point in their relationship where here, let's leave. She comes back, and then it's just like, after that, we were great. We were great for 50 years after that, and it was everything was happy. Like it just glosses over everything. It's a quick fix, and it doesn't allow that relationship to actually explore something interesting. Whereas with Landon and Jamie, you actually have the interesting. You have the stuff with the school play. You have the grand gesture of the telescope, building that telescope. You don't have these great speeches. You have the telescope, because she puts on her bucket list before she goes down. She says, she wants to go to the telescope, and he builds it for her. That for me, that is the sort of the grand gesture, and we get that expansion and the growth of the relationship. But because she's terminally ill, we hit a point and we see that relationship from its beginning to its end. Yours cuts out 50 years of that relationship because everything was great. And I just don't.
So what you're saying is that if Ruth just fucking died when she was like 25, the movie would be better, the romance would be better, because we suddenly don't need to fill up our whole film with the over 60, nearly 70 years they're together. You are undermining my film, my argument, because she doesn't fucking die. That's fucked up.
Because we do see them have struggles, but they're through Ira's lens, through the idealized lens, and it's just like everything was fine after that. Really,
but it's not just through Ira's lens.
But the best couples continue to grow, and they continue to challenge each other, like Landon and Jamie do. But yours, it just wraps up with a quick line.
You can't say, they continue to challenge each other, and then she dies, and then somehow that lack of time is somehow bad for my film. You're arguing intersecting points that don't make sense.
It's not the lack of time. It's we see beginning to end.
Ira's stories of Ruth are validated through other characters. You hear from Daniel's future wife, for the judges, Daniel is the kid that Ruth wanted to adopt. You hear from his future wife after he's died at that point, how much Ruth meant to him and how influential she was. How good of a person she was. It's reinforced by another character not named Ira.
Phenomenal. All right, let's start closings with Joe. Joe, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
I think what makes Landon and Jamie feel real and special is that it's a fully lived, emotionally earned relationship, and it's genuinely transformative from beginning to end. We watch Landon slowly fall for Jamie, despite his initial embarrassment and prejudices. We see the school play change the way he views her completely, and then we feel the heartbreak behind Jamie not telling him not to fall in love, but yet they still do. By contrast, Ira and Ruth are presented largely through flashbacks and Ira's letters, a version of their romance which is filtered through nostalgia and memory. The audience mostly sees the beautiful moments, the romantic highlights, the carefully preserved recollections. And that's the difference. Landon and Jamie's relationship is experienced directly from beginning to end, with all its awkwardness, the fear, the sacrifice, and emotional growth still intact, and it feels genuinely real. Ira and Ruth's relationship, on the other hand, often feels remembered more than it feels lived. And ultimately, real emotional transformation will always resonate more deeply than idealized nostalgia. And we skip 50 years of that because everything was perfect. It's not real, and I don't buy it.
All right, let's go over to Spence. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
Joe's proposal, his pick for this question, is two teenagers, one of which is nearly a convicted murderer and assaulted the woman that he wants to date. And suddenly, because she dies under a year later, you don't get to see the highs and lows of their relationship. That's his argument to you folks. What I am giving you is a couple who they got married young and then lived together through their entire lives together. And you are still seeing the highs and lows. The biggest fights in their relationship is the lack of adoption and wonder if they should even be together if Ira can't produce kids. That is real struggle, and yet you see their love for each other. And the reason the movie is structured the way that it is, it's not idealized through Ira's lens. You are seeing the way that he loves her. And that honest, truthful, deep, profound love is something that is not seen in any other Sparks material. He loves her for who she is. Again, not who he married at the beginning, but who she grows into. That is real love. I'm not going to give points to Landon for being a shithead who's suddenly not a fucking murderer. That's not romance.
All right. I want to say Britt Robinson?
Yes.
What happened?
She's the Duck Dynasty girl, and she is not.
All right. I'm ready. Looks like Mark's writing, Kirk's writing. Good stuff. All right. This was the order we were going in. now I'm questioning myself. Yeah.
Yes.
This is how Mark went after me. Kirk, you're up.
All right. Well, we get the two flavors of Sparks couples: the ones that die young and the ones that die old. So we got all our bases covered here. Both very. I think this is a really well fought fight, and I think they both did a great job of explaining and arguing why their version of not just their romance specifically, in general, the presentation of the romance is the best. Again, this is a very close one. It's like 49-51 for me. I gave it to Joe, just because because I just feel like Joe gave a little bit more. I was feeling, he's talking about these different specifics about Jamie and Landon. I felt like I was feeling their relationship more. Spence told us some stuff about the infertility, and that was interesting, but I just wasn't getting to the core of it like I was with Joe's couple. I thought that Spence did a bad job. I think they did a great job. They both did. But like I said, I think I just got a little bit more from Joe on this one.
Okay. Yeah, I also went with Joe on this one, actually. I thought that for me, what kind of sealed it for me was Joe really had me convinced that we just don't get enough of the beautiful Una Chaplin's character with Ira. She's gorgeous. But anyway, he had just had me convinced that, yeah, like he could have totally been bullshitting, but that in the movie we just don't see enough of the relationship. That we see the beginnings, we see the end, but we don't really see the happiness that is there in the middle. And yeah, had me convinced on pretty much everything that Kirk said about why his couple did work. Spence did a good job, like Kirk said. I thought that the really painting the picture of Joe's guy being just a douchebag who's gonna push someone off into a train or something.
No, he pushes him like into a pool, but it's still far enough that it nearly fucking like shatters his spine.
Oh, like, nice.
It's almost murder.
Right. But yeah, no, I went with Joe. Mark, where are you at?
Yeah, I didn't know the Fire Mommy was in Longest Ride. I might watch it now.
Yeah,
it's got bull riding. It's got
the
bull
Fire
riding.
Mommy, baby.
I don't know. She convinced me at least. I don't know. Like
Fire Mommy.
No clean sweep so far. This is good.
I think ultimately I at least bought the Spence's defense on the Joe's major hit is like we don't really get to see this romance. It feels idolized or idealized, and like we don't see the struggles. I think Spence did a decent job of at least knocking that down, and I think that was really just like the small edge in this fight for me.
All right, sounds good. We are going to move on to the next Fire Mommy. I love it so much. All right, we're going to move on to the next question. It was drafted by Joe in the category of actors and actresses. I'm sure he's upset with me over this one, but here we go.
Not so much.
Oh, great. The question is, which Simon Pegg character would be the most fun to hang out with? Caveat, no Cornetto trilogy, because I just didn't want to talk about The World's End and Shaun of the Dead. All right.
I don't think any of those would be fun to hang out with, in all honesty.
That's fair. We've debated those movies a lot, is all I'm saying. But Joe, you get to open this one. You got 1 minute. Tell us why Unkar Plot would be really fun to hang out.
If I'm picking a Simon Pegg character to hang out with, I want to have fun. You're hanging out with someone, you want to have fun, and I want to go on some fun adventures. And that's, for me, I chose Graham Willie from Paul. What makes Graham really likable is the way he interacts with the people around him. With Clive, he has this sort of kind of effortless friendship that's built up over years and years. Shared jokes, nerdy enthusiasm, playful sarcasm, conversations always feel natural. And then you have Paul, guy's known for 20 minutes, an alien is known for 20 minutes, but there's this mixture of amazement and confusion, and they get on, and it's just this chemistry that they have together. And then there's Ruth as well. There's a real warmth about Graham, and even in these really absurd situations, he remains patient and kind and emotionally grounded. He listens to people, he bounces off their personalities naturally. It helps create this sort of relaxed chemistry that makes the entire group dynamic work really well. So Graham, I think, would just be really fun to hang around with. He doesn't need explosions, chaos to make situations entertaining.
Yeah. Let's go to Spence. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
Just a bit of like TMI for me. I think to myself as like, I'm never like the main dish of a hangout. I'm like the seasoning and what makes it like from like good to like, pretty good. I'm never like the star. I think that Benji Dunn will be the star of anything that you're hanging out with, which I think is great for me as somebody who is like, I'm able to like bring, like taking what other people are doing. And I think hearing about like beyond just like his life stories and the crazy shit he's done with Ethan as part of the IMF, I think as well of just like, he's really nice. He's loyal to a fault. He is funny. Like he has the trademarks of that Simon Pegg like wittiness, while also just being someone who genuinely like deeply cares about you. You can see it in Mission Impossible 3 of like, you don't really see his relationship with Ethan develop. And he's still like, a lowly guy. Like he's like running the company. He's like, no, I will drop everything. I will risk the safety of this country because I trust you, Ethan Hunt. This is a dude that will be by your side no matter what kind of illegal shit you do. He will be with you while also being a really funny, charismatic guy.
Okay. We are going to bring in Joe, and we are going to go to the 5-minute freeform when one of you starts talking.
You can't be hanging out with Benji. All this stuff you just said, like everything that he would tell you is heavily classified information. How was work? Can't say. Where were you last week? Classified. Any interesting stories? Can't tell you. And if you were in that
There's
world,
no precedent for that. He could be a leaky faucet. That we don't know.
Fine. Do you want to spend all your time hearing about this guy Ethan who might not actually exist? Oh, today he jumped a motorcycle off a cliff. Did he though? Did he actually? I
do. Are you kidding me? Like, my Instagram feed just looks like those Red Bull dudes doing stupid shit. It's great.
I think Benji becomes that friend who just tells stories that you just call bullshit on most of the time, and if not, he's going to be boring because in reality, he can't talk about them. But with Graham, he wants to talk nerd. He wants to talk movies. He wants to take road trip, visit different places, go to Comic-Con. He wants to sit for hours and make references and talk about movies. Who would want to do that, eh?
Okay, great. So you want to hang out with Kevin Smith. That's all that you're pitching is just a fucking nerd who has nothing to offer other than being a nerd. He is an extremely like bland character. You pick the most like Matt Smith, like not as like the guy, but like the most generic dude possible. It is a random ass dude who likes Star Trek. That's the only real fandom you see him engage with in the whole movie. Is always at Comic-Con and all this random obscure stuff. And also Star Trek. That's nothing. Half the shit that you see him referencing is made up stuff. So you have no idea if you're going to really connect with him other than the original series TV show. The only conversation. No, he does not talk about Star Wars the whole movie. It is one scene where they go to the filming of one episode of Star Trek the original series, and that is it. That's the only real fandom you see this dude engage with. He could hate Lord of the Rings. He could hate James Bond. You would fucking hate this guy because you have no idea who he is.
Okay, and I could say all that stuff about Benji because you're talking about stuff that's not presented on screen. All right, but the point with Graham,
you're arguing in favor of things you don't know.
Yeah, but the point with Graham that I'm trying to make is that you see him interact with multiple different people throughout from different walks of life. You have Clive, his best friend, you have Ruth, and you have Paul, and each one of them he reacts differently with. He treats them with warmth, he treats them with compassion, with whether you know him for 20 years or 20 minutes, he is someone that engages with you in conversation and the things he does, not just the Comic-Con and the nerds. He's going on road trips. He is visiting obscure places. He is on that route. He is visiting these UFO sites and these diners, and he's talking to people at the diners, trying to get to know them. This is why you want to hang out with him. It's because he does fun things. He engages people in conversation. He treats you with warmth, and the personality, the way he treats other personalities, is the chemistry that you can have with him. It grows, and it's good chemistry. That's what I want.
I don't think the chemistry is really all as there as you think it is, because he's incredibly plain spoken and kind of doesn't bring anything to conversation. It is driven a lot by Nick Frost, and then he's also with this fuck ass like Seth Rogen alien. He's an incredibly boring dude, because what you're pitching is basically a nerd who has like random obscure shit. Again, like in our universe, we only know Star Trek, nothing else is really there for reference. And also he's like obsessed with aliens. He goes to a diner ran by Sue Sylvester. He's like, yeah, I want a sparkler alien drink. He's a fucking dork. Like I understand like we can relate about like fun nerd stuff. At the end of the day, I don't think he's fun. I don't think he's interesting, because what we are seeing from him is not being engaged in talking about fandom stuff. It's the fun thing, that's cool. Like when like a Freeburg Seltzer movie, like, oh hey, that's a reference. It just pops up and like, oh hey, I like that, and that's it. He's an incredibly shallow character. Benji Dunn, as a friend, is loyal and funny and interesting. And whether or not you believe his stories, we're literally here talking about movies, fictional shit that happens to nobody, and we're still locked in. I could be locked in on Benji's stories, which again, we could be talking about IMF stuff. There's no idea whether or not it's classified if he can talk about it.
It's definitely
what I'm being told about this is interesting. I'm locked in, even if it is fake.
No, I think that's the issue with Benji. We don't actually see him engaging in social situations. It's always part of the mission. The only time we really see it is at the end of Ghost Protocol, and when we get, and that's a fairly basic scene of them hanging out at the coffee shop afterwards. It's mostly focused on Ethan, and then when you get to Final Reckoning, he is just depressing throughout. Honestly, he looks like he's just been told both of his parents died throughout the entire film. The guy at this point is
the stake of the world is in his hand, and being sad is fine.
It's stressed and anxious. He brings to the situation now with everything that happens. You see him when he's guiding Ethan through like the jump in Dead Reckoning. It's stress and it's anxiety. And I don't think if you're going to hang out with someone that's going to be a fun situation. I think it's going to be boring because he can't tell you anything, and two, it's just going to be a very stressed or anxious guy. With Graham, you're going to have someone that is going to have natural chemistry with you, growth and warmth, and have a good time.
Okay, we are going to start closings with Adelaide. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
At the end of the day, Graham in Paul is just really boring and weird. We can all say like, oh yeah, I would love to talk Star Trek with some random ass guy. But he is an alien-obsessed weirdo who frequently just gets like really fixated on 3 boobed aliens. That's like the running joke of the movie. Is like, oh my god, 3 boobs. And then, oh hey, there's an alien. What if we get probed? It is a bad character in a bad movie, and it is undermined by Graham's lack of depth, of real sense of character besides the general idea of nerd. I think Benji Dunn, as we've seen him across 7 movies, he's genuinely interesting and funny and relatable. He is incredibly loyal. He loves everyone around him, will do anything possible to protect them and to work with them. Joe's thinking about, oh, he's depressed. You're seeing him save the world. Like, yeah, if I thought I had a 1% chance of certain death for billions of people, yeah, I'd be pretty fucked up. But who he is outside of those moments is someone who I genuinely want to go to a bar with and learn more about.
Okay, let's move over to Joe. Joe, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
This isn't about the best guy or the most loyal guy. This is about someone who you actually want to hang out with, not someone who can't talk to you because everything that they experience in life is classified, and not someone who, if they could talk about it, is going to spend the whole time talking about their best friend Ethan and not actually engaging you in conversation. I think with Graham shows that he is interested in people. He wants to talk to people. He does fun things. You're calling him boring. The guy takes road trips. The guy visits Comic-Cons. The guy likes to talk about films. These are the things that we like to do. We like to go out and experience the world and experience new things, which is what he's doing. I think he's the kind of person who makes ordinary moments enjoyable simply by being present, whether it is talking about sci-fi or making silly jokes or reacting to complete absurdity around him. And he can talk about the fact that he met an alien. If we're going to have stories, he's going to talk about the fact that he met an alien and got shot and brought back to life. That's a cool story. That's a fun story. I think one character is exciting during a mission, whereas the other feels like someone who could turn an ordinary weekend into a genuinely great memory. And if I know everything about Benji Dunn and I'm hanging out with him, I'm worried what's going to happen to me as well. It's not a fun time.
Okay. Bring in the judges. All right.
Joe, do you like the movie Paul?
It's right.
I saw a lot of positive reviews, and I was just very deeply shocked that people like that movie.
I haven't seen it in a really. I liked it when it came out, but it came out when I was like 17, so like,
yeah,
I probably liked it more.
Yeah.
I feel like that movie cashed in on the popularity of Seth Rogen and Simon Pegg at the time.
Seth Rogen, and it was 2 years post, like 2 or 3 years post Hot Fuzz. So
well, that's what I was going to say. It was the movie with Nick Frost and Simon Pegg.
That's not Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Kirk, are you good? Okay, great. Mark, you are going to kick us off on this one.
Yeah. I ended up going with Joe. I feel like when mainly when it came to the hits on the character, I feel like Joe painted a pretty solid picture of Benji that would like if I'm spending like an afternoon with Benji, there's probably a lot of things that would annoy the hell out of me about Benji. It's like one, like he could be a bit of like I could think he's a bit of like if he's telling me about all the Mission Impossible stuff, then he's just like a guy to me. Like I probably would be thinking, okay, this guy's kind of full of shit. And like and I also do think Joe played the bit of the strategic game of like picking a nerd in like a room full of nerds. Like yeah, I probably would rather hang out with the nerd. Like if being honest.
All right, Kirk, where are you at?
Yeah, good fight. Simon Pegg has kind of made a career of playing people that you like want to be around and hang out with. He just got that kind of energy. So both picked good characters, but found a way to have like diverse selection within that archetype of his. Both very different, although a lot of similarities. The fight was close. And it came down to the closing, both strong closings. I was still going back and forth into the closing. Ultimately, I also went with Joe because I think Joe really did a good job in the closing where, Spence was saying, well, he's boring. He's that. I think Joe put a really nice bow on his argument of all the reasons why he's not boring and he's somebody you would want to be around. And, all these things. And I think when it comes down to, like I said, I love Simon Pegg. I love watching Simon Pegg act. I love his characters. I think Joe, really did the best of diluting his guy down to that Simon Pegg energy that you love and want to be around. And that's why I went with him.
All right. First clean sweep of the match. I went with Joe as well. I thought Spence did a good job on this. Because Benji is a great character, and I think on paper you would want to hang out with him. But I think Joe did a great job of kind of taking down the argument, the kind of breaking it down by being like, "What are you going to talk about?" Because everything would either sound like bullshit or you can't even talk about it. And I thought it was a really good argument. And the Paul character, I don't remember the name from Paul. It sounded, Joe made it sound like Mark said, like, oh no, who would us nerds want to hang out with? So I thought that worked really well. So Joe is up 2-1.
We take a time out here.
All right, we're back. We're gonna move on to the next question. It is 2-1 in favor of Joe, and the next question is coming in the category of drama, drafted by Adelaide. The question is, which had no controversy in the chat at all, what is the saddest ending to a drama film from 1997? Adelaide, you get to kick this one off. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
1997's Bent is about Max, a proudly gay man living in pre-war Berlin before the murder of one of his lovers has him flee the city. Even after this initial escape, Max and his boyfriend are found and arrested, sent to Dachau, where Max watches his boyfriend be murdered in front of him by the Gestapo. At Dachau, Max claims to be Jewish and not gay to avoid more severe persecution. Even after this facade is believed, he falls in love with fellow prisoner Horst, and the two become co-workers who can talk openly about their love and desire for each other in their quiet workspace. However, Horst eventually falls ill and can't receive medicine simply because he's gay. Max is able to get the medicine for him, but the officers learn of this deception. In the final scene of the film, SS officers try to force Horst to climb an electric fence. As he turns to run, he is gunned down. The guards leave, and in a final act of love, Max takes Horst's body and gives him as proper a burial as possible. Max slowly approaches the fence, gripping it and electrocuting himself to death. He has grown tired of being surrounded by the death of his lovers and finally wishes to join them.
What have I done? Yeah, that was sad. All right, let's go over to Joe. Joe, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
The ending of The Sweet Hereafter is the saddest and most devastating. The film follows a small Canadian town after a school bus accident kills nearly half of the town's children. A lawyer played by Ian Holm arrives hoping to organise a lawsuit against the bus company, believing someone must be responsible. But the emotional centre of this film comes from the character Nicole, played by Sarah Polley. She's one of the surviving children, permanently paralysed after the crash. And in the final courtroom scene, Nicole suddenly lies under oath, destroying the case. No justice, no answer, no emotional victory. The town simply remains trapped inside its grief. In the final moments, cold, emotional cinematography, snow-covered town, frozen in time. The dialogue is restrained and exhausted. The characters are too broken to articulate any kind of pain. The score drifts quietly beneath the scene like grief itself. And the final comes with Nicole reading The Pied Piper of Hamelin, a story about children being led away forever. And suddenly the audience understands the true horror of tragedy.
Yeah.
What did you do?
You did a good job, Tim. This is a fun question.
Yeah, all right. Okay, well, here we go. 5 minutes.
I think if we were arguing best ending, I would have much less of a problem with your choice. However, it is saddest, and you openly just described it as cold and emotionless. You have fundamentally undermined your point. I think the idea of the end of the film is interesting, that it was basically all for nothing. But if you get to the idea of what is the saddest, it is about a relatively skeezy lawyer who is trying to exploit a massive lawsuit out of a town who are still grieving children. And then suddenly when someone says, I don't believe holding people at fault or making this town any poorer will do any better, and she lies under oath, which is fucked up. However, it's not sad. The fact that it undermines the point of the film is actually pretty profound and interesting. I think if you have ignored a work.
I think that the point of the ending is you're left in this world of grief. The town is left in this world of grief. These children are not simply dead. Their entire future has vanished with them. That's the point of the cold emotion shot, is because there is nothing left. There is nothing for these. The children are not there. They are not going to grow into anything. They are not going to inhabit this town anymore. And the people of the town who are left are still having to deal with that grief. I think with Max, when he puts the mark on that, to actually say I am a gay man, he does that. That is a moment. That is a moment of true catharsis. That is a moment that of him accepting himself, and there's a little bit of triumph in there. And I think the other difference is we're talking about children here, right? You've got adult characters who have lived some kind of life. When you look at the end of this film, these are children. These are lives that are never going to be realized. These are futures that are never going to be realized. And I think that's what gives it the sadder punch, is that it's a whole future and a whole world unrealized, whereas yours had that realization, has that small moment of relief and catharsis in it, which Sweet Hereafter simply does not have.
I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of, I could just say more people died, or why does age matter? I think that's kind of not going to add to any of our arguments. I think, but what you're describing in terms of the dramatic irony, the weight of the scene, that small triumph of Max accepting who he is before killing himself makes it sadder. He doesn't feel the need to hide himself or who he is anymore. Embracing who he is, he already knows that death is inescapable. His choice to kill himself, to reunite himself with the three men that he's loved who have died right in front of him. The emotional weight of that is what makes the final scene of my film so incredible. It is an incredible ending, the way that it actually resolves the story. Ending. That's
the thing. It's an emotional resolution, yes, but it's an emotional resolution in his acceptance of his identity and his love for Horst. But there's a sense, and that's a sense of tragic completion. But The Sweet Hereafter doesn't offer that release. It's a sadness that lingers well after the film's finished. It feels painfully real. Parents surviving their children, the community permanently damaged, and futures erased without any explanation whatsoever. That's the point of the testimony. Of lying under oath. that future is raised, and there's no explanation for it. There's no reason. There's no justice for it. And it's right. Max's final act is an emotional release, and that you do not get any kind of emotional release for the Sweet Hereafter. You are just left devastated.
I think you arguing lack of reasoning, like, just it's incorrect. It is shown in the film that Nicole is being sexually abused by her father. She is lying under oath, partially so that he does not get any money. It is a targeted attack, and yes, the rest of the town is unfortunately taken down with it. But at the end of the day, this is about a lawyer who came to a town to try and take advantage of a massive lawsuit to take money out of this poor, small town, and is not rewarded for it. Even the driver who Nicole accuses, you see at the end of the film, goes on to live a happy life. It is an incredibly well-written ending. Saddest is not the way that I think that fits here. If you look at the ending of Bent, beyond the fact that it is like one of the greatest tragedies in history, in written history, but like when you're actually living with Max and you see like pre-war Berlin is incredibly gay. Like the vibrancy of basically even just breaking it down, he could be himself. He could be happy as who he was. And you see over the course of a couple of years how that is ripped away from him, how every single part of him, including his basic identity as a human being, needs to be stripped down. And only in that last moment when he has to kill himself is it fully actualized once again. That is devastating.
Yeah, but in that moment, that you realize his character, one, he has rediscovered who he is, and his grief is over. When we leave the Sweet Hereafter, their grief is still there. It is still lingering. It is present in the town. The cinematography, the way the score comes underneath that grief is ever present, and it never leaves.
Okay. We're going to start with Joe. Joe, you have 1 minute to close when you start talking.
I think the ending of Ben is that it leaves the audience not with shock or the Sweet Hereafter compared to Ben is that it doesn't leave. It's not a shock. It's not dramatic tragedy. It's something more painful. It's this permanent absence, this permanent grief. Ben is sad because it depicts cruelty, oppression, and sacrifice, but there's still this emotional culmination in his final act. The story reaches a conclusion. The character has a catharsis. They have this emotional release, and they have a moment of triumph. I think the Sweet Hereafter refuses to offer any kind of comfort to its characters or its audience. Nicole destroys the lawsuit, meaning there are no answers, no emotional release for the town. The grief simply remains. The Pied Piper of Hamelin's story being told at the end, it creates this feeling of this unbearable emptiness. At the center of that emptiness are children whose futures vanished before they had a chance to exist. No lives completed, lives interrupted before they could even begin. And that's why the Sweet Hereafter feels so devastatingly sad. They are mourning everything that will now never happen.
All right, let's bring in Adelaide. Adelaide, you have 1 minute to close when you start talking.
Saying the Sweet Hereafter has definitively no answers is the point of the film. It is not Nicole undermining it in her lying under oath. Sometimes people die. And there is no explanation to the bus driving off of the cliff. It happens. At the end of the day, Joe opened his argument with the fact that this movie is cold and emotionless, and that its finale is cold and emotionless. He is arguing about the sadness from the characters in the film. As we, the audience, are watching Bent, that is one of the saddest things I've ever seen in literally any movie, not just 97. This is about a character who has repeatedly seen who he is as a person, his love for other men, be the reason that they die. He is the reason that people come down and gun down or stab or some way punish those he loves. So in his final moments of his own life, he does something that he's not been able to before. He takes the initiative and gives his love a proper burial, a thing that men at the time were not given, that prisoners in Dachau were not given, and says that a life without Horst is not worth living, and takes his own in the way that he was meant to be killed. It fucking hurts.
A pleasant show, Fanzone debate. You know,
I said we should have done this question first.
I've done saddest before. That was sad, guys. That was sad. So that was some sad stuff.
Yeah, but the last time we did it was me and Jacoby, and it was saddest moment in a Pixar film, so it was a little bit lighter. I'll be honest.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
And it helps him. Like the ending of Bent is not the most fucked up part. There is not like sad. There is shit you do not want to understand in the previous like 80 minutes.
What did me and Jacoby pick? It was Ellie's death and Coral's death, I think.
Carl doesn't die.
Coral.
Coral. Yeah.
Oh, fuck, those are good picks.
I think that's what we went with. The argument kind of went the same way as well, actually, thinking about the age thing.
All right. Yeah, this was sad. These sound like some sad fucking movies, guys. Haven't seen either. I thought both did a really good job. Spence's movie and their ending was about just like a sad situation, sad characters, and then just like a devastation for that relationship, and then obviously of the times and stuff. Joe was much more of a large emotional thing in the sense of like it affected many people. Spence kind of addressed that of like, okay, your movie has more people dying, but does that automatically make it sadder? I don't think so. And I would happen to agree with Spence. I think Spence that hit that, and that was a really good point that Adelaide hit, that just because like more people die in a movie doesn't necessarily make it a sadder thing or something. It kind of hinges on, you know, what is making you feel that way. Ultimately, I did go with Joe. I felt like at the end of the day, just sitting here thinking about it, Adelaide kind of took something that Joe said of like, it's cold, it's emotionless, and punched that home. And I think that was a good thing to do, but I think Joe was able to overcome it, and he kind of convinced me that at the end of this movie, there's just there's no resolution for the town, the characters, and they are left in a sad state. And in that instance, it might not be about how many people died, but it might be about how many people are left just absolutely wrecked. Again, that is not to say that Adelaide's scene is not sad. It sounded,
okay, I see how it is, Tim.
It sounded very fucking depressing. And both actually made me want to watch these movies for very different reasons. I love a good Ian Holm performance. And Adelaide's movie just sounds like the type of heartbreak I enjoy watching. So
Bent has one of Clive Owen's best performances, which I think is a very low bar, but he's great in it. Yeah,
I do enjoy a good Clive Owen performance. Those are rare. Mark, let's go over to you. What are you thinking?
Yeah, you know, this is why we all came here today, right? You know, just to talk about this. Yeah, I mean, listen, both scenes are really sad. I'm like, okay, like it, and you know, it's this is also things that like you probably only want to experience once, and I think both had good points, but I think Joe just kind of painted a picture of just, you know, the sad thing happens and time passes and there's nothing about it that really gets better. Like it just kind of stays the same. And I think that's just it was something that I think was really hard to shake the whole fight. And I think, you know, Spence threw some shots at it. I feel like it is ultimately it's kind of the sinker there, so to speak.
Okay, Kirk, your vote doesn't count. Where would you have gone?
First of all, how dare you? Clive Owen is a treasure. Second of all, I also went with Joe because I haven't seen either of these, and so it really came down. I decided early on whoever makes me sadder in their explanation is going to win it. And Spence went Holocaust, and you win. It's Holocaust. What's sadder than the Holocaust? But Joe did something that and I was like kind of leaning towards Spence because all their points were so good, and they were really kind of beating Joe down. But then Joe made a really good point about how there's some catharsis for Max and some level of triumph. And in Spence's closing, they say, "Yeah, Sweet Hereafter, just sometimes people die, and there's no explanation, and that's it." And they went on to talk about how Max had lost all these things, and at the end gets something back. And I think the downside to arguing status for Holocaust is it's the Holocaust, so there's no happy ending. So I feel like when you have anything to grasp onto like that in a story like that, that gives you something. Where Joe, again, there's nothing like that. There's nothing to like walk away with and say, well, at least this. Where it sounds like Bent has that, and I think Spence, even in their own argument, kind of proved that. So,
all right. So Joe is up 3-1. That means that Adelaide needs to hit this next one in order to send it to the bonus. We are going to move on to that question. It was drafted by Joe in the category of action adventure. Let's lighten things up a bit. It's time to get sexy with who is the best Bond girl? Love it. Joe, we're going to start with you. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
Anya Amasova from The Spy Who Loved Me stands above every other Bond girl because she is one of the only Bond girls who genuinely feels like she is Bond's equal in every sense. Played by Barbara Buck, Anya is introduced not as someone Bond must rescue or impress, but as a highly skilled Soviet agent already operating at Bond's level. From the very beginning, she matches him intellectually, challenges him professionally, and repeatedly proves that she can outthink and outmaneuver him. Their chemistry comes from rivalry, mutual respect, rather than simple attraction. But what makes Anya exceptional is her agency. She drives the story forward through her own decisions, her own mission, her own motivations, and the film never treats her as just decoration. She is competent, resourceful, emotionally disciplined, and consistently capable throughout the film. And unlike many Bond relationships, her dynamic with Bond feels earned. She slowly wins over a version of Bond who remains emotionally guarded, sarcastic, and difficult to truly connect with. She never loses her identity within the story. She remains intelligent and dangerous and Bond's equal, and that's why she is the best Bond girl.
Okay, let's move over to Spence. Spence, you have 1 minute when you start.
The issue with Bond girls, I think, like, very generally, they are just casting international models who have no agency, nothing to offer, and are just bad actresses that whoever your James Bond actor is gets to have like weird sex with after like an hour and a half of your 2-hour movie. The pinnacle of this, and I think Joe pinpointed it as well, is you want someone who can actually match Bond's intellect or his physicality or his sense of action. And that is Vesper Lind. It is somebody who I think has incredible narrative significance, even through all of Daniel Craig's films. She always weighs on him. I think this idea of the narrative weight, I think, makes her incredible. The impact that she can leave on the character, while also being his intellectual equal, his physical equal, someone who challenges him and pushes him. I think that her presence in the story, beyond the reason that it continues, she is what makes Bond a great agent. She is the reason he becomes so talented and so masterful in the future. She is one of the great characters of the franchise, not just a Bond girl.
Okay, we'll bring in Joe. 5 minutes when one of you starts talking.
One of my biggest issues with Vesper is that after we leave Casino Royale, we get that feeling that we've now got this traditional Bond, and that Vesper's betrayal and her death have left him this sort of cold and unwilling to love, like we know Bond to be. But the problem is we then get Quantum of Solace and Spectre, and she's brought up over and over and over and over and over again. It just dilutes everything about her character, and it does turn her into a bit of the one that got away more than an actual character with agency. And I think that's the issue.
How is it diluting for her to have a lasting effect?
It's because it's constantly brought up. It's like Quantum of Solace, you get this whole thing where new parts of her character, like keeping a lock of her boyfriend's hair and stuff like that, which is stuff that doesn't fit with the Vesper that we see in Casino Royale. And then it's just driven home in Spectre, which the less said about the better. But I think with Triple X, with Anya, I think you have this character who is her own person, and you get the whole thing about, and one of the good things I like about Anya is that she remains committed to the mission. When she finds out that Bond killed Sergei, her lover, she says, once this mission is done, because she still remains committed to the mission. That, the dedication to the mission is what Bond has always had, and is what Anya has as well. And it's that slowly growing mutual respect they have that then brings them together at the end of it.
I'm still focused on you thinking that, like, for some reason, having a lasting emotional impact on Bond as a character somehow weighing her down. I think that's ridiculous. I also think my biggest issue with Anya is I think that we are arguing like kind of similar characters, but mine has a phenomenal performance by Eva Green and is kind of the reason the movie works. I think if you put like Strawberry Field or literally any other boring ass Bond girl in that movie, the whole thing falls apart. Barbara Bach sucks. She is wooden, she is stiff, she is lifeless, she adds absolutely nothing. The character is written kind of well, but I don't believe anything coming from her absolutely atrocious performance. I think Eva Green nails the character, the nuances, everything about her. I think the way that she's written is also incredible, tackling what is like the idea of the 21st century Bond, of Daniel Craig's Bond, is putting him into a modern age and having it reflect everything around them in the way that prior Bond films don't really do, by giving this character agency and really having her bringing in this modern feminist ideas, even to the point of betraying him and having this secret agency this whole time, is riveting. It is incredible. Like, it is a genuinely great character who does not need the asterisk of a great Bond girl. Anya is a good Bond girl, but she is kind of a nothing character when you remove her from this film or try to critically analyze her.
I think when you go back to Spy Who Loved Me and you look at the scene specifically in Egypt where she seduces him and then knocks him out with the sort of the sleeping gas cigarette, and then you have the other scenes, especially I think Egypt is the biggest stuff for her, because you have that stuff where she brings up Tracy, she brings up his late wife, and that brings Bond's guards up, and I think we don't see that in any other way with any other Bond girl. And then you get the stuff where they're having this sort of battle of wits about looking at the microfilm and identifying different stuff, and it's a back and forth, it's a head-to-head, tete-a-tete, and I think it's really, really well done, and I think no other Bond girl has that back and forth with Bond where they can also match Bond physically, because she takes on Jaws, she stands up to Jaws and she wants to take him on. You don't get that with Vesper. Vesper loses a lot of her agency, like the scene in the stairwell where she she can't figure out, she's just sort of huddling in the corner. And I think it loses some of that agency because she becomes the damsel in distress, which Anya never becomes. She's like Bond girls before. She talk about a 21st century Bond girl, but Vesper ultimately becomes a damsel in distress in the end anyway, which Anya never does.
Damsel in distress is such a shitty way to undermine Vesper Lynd as a woman who is being traumatized and used and abused by the mob who is kind of forcing her to do a job. She's allowed to be emotionally wrought over what she's going through. She's allowed to cry in the shower and for Bond to join her. The emotional support does not make her a weaker character. The emotional support stuff is fine. It's the stuff when she's dragged from the casino and left tied in the middle of the road and dragged into another room where Bond doesn't know what's going on. Because Bond is tied to a chair and his balls are fucking nailed, and they ask for someone else to come rescue him. Being rescued is fine. That is not a lack of agency.
And I think deep down, a good Bond girl also has to be a good ally, and I think her betrayal lessens her status as a Bond girl, where Anya is a better character and a better ally to Bond, despite working for the rival side in the end. I think that betrayal ultimately lessens her as a Bond girl because she is not an ally. That hits her as a Bond girl. With
her final moment is like giving James that win, giving him like it is not a true betrayal. She still loves him, and it's a really powerful scene.
Adelaide, we're going to start with you. You have 1 minute to close when you start talking.
James Bond is not the great agent we make him out to be. Joe makes a point about Anya, she physically overpowered, she used the gas, whatever, on Bond and knocks him out. It's a repeated thing within Bond girls. I can name multiple movies from Russia with Love, Thunderball, Diamonds Are Forever, Moonraker. Like, Bond is not the one always in control. He's an idiot sometimes. Most of the time, he sticks his dick in anything and often screws him over. I think that's part of the character. I don't think Anya having like one-upping him physically is something that this great designation of character. But I think when you're really thinking about it, who is like the great character of James Bond movies? It really is Vesper Lynd. If you look at who she is in Casino Royale, whether she matches Bond intellectually and forms, in my opinion, the best James Bond in the whole franchise. She is the reason he is who he is, and the person that he becomes of this like genuinely like he's not as cold as Joe makes him out to be. He is loving and he is supportive while also being this incredible agent. It is because of her we have the incredible Greg. Anya sucks. She's boring.
Okay, let's go over to Joe. Joe, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
Anya stands beside Bond as an equal without ever losing her own identity. I think she has agency, intelligence, professionalism, and a genuine authority in The Spy Who Loved Me. She repeatedly challenges and outsmarts Bond. She remains active throughout her mission. She never becomes another damsel in distress. She works with Bond, and she makes it feel balanced rather than emotionally one-sided. And like I said, she's dedicated to the mission. I think lesser characters would become consumed entirely by revenge or emotional collapse, and Anya doesn't do that. I think Vesper ultimately becomes defined by betrayal, emotional tragedy, and a legacy later films repeatedly revisit until its impact becomes diluted. Anya's legacy remains sharper because it is built on competence, independence, and consistency. She doesn't just emotionally affect Bond. She proves she can operate at his level, and that is why she's one of the best Bond girls. She is definitively Bond's equal, and she has her own character throughout the film, and she does emotionally challenge Bond when she brings up his wife. She brings up those emotional cards and affects Bond emotionally in a way that no Bond girl ever has.
Okay, gonna bring in the judges.
Very worthy champion, Joe. I should say it right now. You're doing a good job.
Mark, you still thinking? You're muted, but I see your board up, so I'm gonna take that up.
I am.
Yeah, now you're good. Okay, Kirk, we're gonna begin with you on this one.
Okay. Both good picks, both good arguments, both good movies, both good characters. Ultimately, I did go with Adelaide because I just got a lot more from them. The depth of the character, how it impacted the Bond, how it impacted the franchise, the emotion, the real emotional impact that you don't necessarily get with Triple X. I think this may have been a situation where Joe's Bond knowledge may have hurt him a little bit because his biggest argument against Vesper was the way she's portrayed in later movies. And I know Joe probably has a really solid point there, but I think because he knows it so well, he didn't necessarily explain it to us. So I really, that was his biggest argument. I just didn't get it. I didn't get enough to understand exactly what he meant by that. And I think, he was throwing out a lot of really positive characteristics about Triple X, but none of those hit me as anything necessary to be a great Bond girl. And I think LA gave us a lot about Vesper, about what her makes her unique and different and so special to the franchise.
Okay, well, this one's going to come down to Mark. I went with Joe. I agree with a lot of what Kirk said, but I actually feel like Joe did a good job of taking down Vesper by saying, by pointing out things that Spence was saying and being like, well, yeah, she's like an equal there and affects Bond, but also she ends up still becoming a damsel put in the middle of the road that he has to go save and stuff. So all the negative things that Spence was saying about Triple X was being flipped back on Vesper. And I thought that Joe did a good job of explaining of Triple X not only being just a cool character, but also an equal to Bond, somebody who, listens to what or finds out that Bond, killed her lover or whatever, and then still works with him as an equal and is a big part of that movie. So I thought that Joe's argument worked. I went with Joe. Mark, are we moving on to the bonus round, or where are we at?
Yeah, I think we are. I did go with Spence. I did kind of agree with Kirk on this one. I think whenever it came down to, I think both had decent arguments for their Bond girl. I just ultimately I didn't really buy a ton of Joe's attacks on Vesper, especially, you know, her being in multiple, at least her impact felt in multiple movies. Like I mean, when it was said, I very much like Spence. Like, I don't understand how that's a bad thing. And like, I think ultimately, we talked about it more. It's like, I don't know. These seem like good things. I don't know what we mean.
All right. Well, that means we're moving on to the bonus round. Spence has to hit both of the bonus questions to win. Joe needs to hit one of them because it is 3-2. So I randomized the categories in Fanzone that hadn't been drafted in the main round. I then put a question in for that category. We're going to start with the first one that was randomized. Oh, well, I guess you guys are going to get, 45 seconds, then 30 seconds, and then. So if you have any questions, I explained that very poorly, but I think you know how it works. Okay, great. The first category that was randomized was horror. The question is, which will be in the private chat for you. Who is the best horror villain of the 2000s? Again, who is the best horror villain of the 2000s? Whoever says their answer first will be going first.
So just to clarify, that's the decade.
Yes, the decade.
Patrick Bateman in American Psycho.
Jigsaw.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to take out the judges. I will stay on screen to give you guys your countdowns. Adelaide, you spoke first, so you're going to be going first with Bateman from American Psycho. Whenever you're ready, you have 45 seconds on the clock.
The question really is, who is the best character? We're breaking that down. I think Patrick Bateman is one of the most interesting characters of the decade beyond just horror. I think the nuance that is given to him being this like openly satirical character who is doing these absolutely ridiculous murders and the nuance brought to it, a lot by Bale's performance, but also in the original writing, the broadness, the funniness of the business cards, of the way that he talks about and approaches women while also being hyper fixated on his own beauty and his own like ideas of masculinity. There's so much interesting going on there that elevates him beyond the genre of horror. The layers that are brought to him in the way that he engages with his coworkers, with the whole the Paul killing him and shit, as well as talking to Defoe as the investigator, is like funny and nuanced.
Time. Joe, 45 seconds for you.
I think that in that original Saw Run, Saw to Saw 6, I think you get a consistently built philosophy in Jigsaw. I think he genuinely has this belief that suffering can rehabilitate people, and that warped moral code makes him a more compelling villain than someone who just kills for revenge or instinct or for chaos. I think Jigsaw, the audience can follow Jigsaw's logic even if they reject it. I think the traps are horrific. I think they're very creative. I think as a villain, he's very creative because you don't know what's going to come next as an audience member. But I also think the movies reveal him as this physically weak and dying person, which in the end, that's your villain. I think it just gives you as an audience member very complex emotions, because you can see what you understand his motivations, even if you don't agree with them, and then you see who this person is and who this character actually is underneath all that. And I think that just changes your whole perception that's going on throughout the films.
Time. Adelaide, 30 seconds when you start talking.
I don't think Jigsaw is a great character. When you're really breaking him down, it's just a guy who wants to kill bad people, and that's the end of it. There is no nuance. There is no layer to who he is. And then it's, oh shit, he has cancer. Let's do it faster. Let's kill a lot of people as quick as possible. That's kind of all he is. Who Patrick Bateman is as a character is this open parody of like, in this idea, modern idea of like the manosphere, of the toxic masculinity, of the corruption of the individual through the idea of wanting to be masculine, but also the actual fear that he has of his action and those around him.
Time. Joe, 30 seconds.
I think what you said is actually fundamentally wrong about Jigsaw, because he does leave someone living. It's that point about, because he's about making people suffer to try and change their perspective on life. Yes, he kills a lot of bad people and he does do that, but ultimately he is trying to change someone. He's trying to change someone for the better and make them suffer. I think Patrick Bateman, he's shallow. It's all about insecurity and narcissism, and I think he kills because he's an empty and bored person. I don't think that's very interesting. It might be an interesting social commentary, but I don't think it's very interesting as a villain, because some of the stuff that's presented in the film may not have even happened.
Time. Okay. We are going to bring in the judges. We're going to play a little flip around here. Ooh, there we go. Oh, man.
Shedding more time.
All right. I'm good. Mark looks like he's writing. Kirk looks good. Mark, you look good too. But and I believe we are starting with Mr. Menchaca.
Yeah. It's an interesting fight. I think like it was really close. I think I'm gonna give the edge to Spence here. I think does a good job, I think, of just rounding out these Patrick Bateman as a character, and kind of, I think, rightly so, sticking with the character aspect of this question. I think overall the points on Jigsaw, they were pretty good.
All right, Kirk, where are you at? You're muted. So I hope you're not speaking.
Again, two good picks. Both Will argued for the time they had. I think they both kind of struggled a little bit out of the gate trying to get their thoughts together, but I both think they both picked it up pretty well in the second half. I do give the one person who I thought did a little bit better job of coming back in there was Spence. I just feel like, again, they were working on an idea at the beginning of their first, maybe like 15, 20, 30 seconds, and they were fumbling a little bit, but it kind of coalesced into something that made a lot of sense. And I just think that Joe's argument was good too, but I think Spence's argument was quick and simple, but I think it was accurate, where Jigsaw's just a horror villain that's killed a bunch of people just to kill him because he has just whatever his motivation is, where Bateman, there's a lot more, it's a lot deeper, and even though it is satirical and there's a lot of other things going on, I just think that Spence made a better argument for their character.
Okay, my vote doesn't count. I went with Joe. I disagree, but that's okay. I thought that Joe's last 10 seconds were really strong, especially the point about that Bateman is just kind of an empty character, and it's all just about narcissism, and especially the hit at the end of some of this might not have even happened. We don't even know. And I thought that was a huge hit. And I liked his rebuttal on Jigsaw, but I'm also a Jigsaw freak. I love those movies. So maybe that was bleeding in. I hope not. But I thought Joe did a good job, and Adelaide did a good job too. I thought Joe had the edge on that one, but we're tied. It is 3-3. This is exciting as we get into the final category. That was randomized. The category was animation.
Oh, not again.
The question is, what is the best animated movie for both kids and adults? Again, what is the best animated movie for both kids and adults?
The Incredibles.
Spirited Away.
Okay. Spirited Away versus The Incredibles. Adelaide, you spoke first, so you are going to get a 45 seconds whenever you start talking.
I think I have an advantage here. This is a movie that I loved as a kid and then loved even more as an adult. As a kid, I was drawn to these really amazing characters. I saw myself in Dash and Violet, and I really related to them. They have incredible action sequences. The colors of the actual, like the homage to the 60s are wonderful. The score is incredible. As an adult, I love the rich nuance of Bob and Helen's relationship, the fear of him possibly having an affair with Mirage, and the actual motivation behind Syndrome's character and his villainy. There is an incredible script in this movie that we as adults can all respect and love. There's a reason we keep coming back to it to this day. As a kid, I watched it over and over and over because I was locked the fuck in. It was so fun. It looked so good. I felt like I was a part of the story.
Time. Joe, 45 seconds when you start talking.
I think Spirited Away works well for both kids and adults because it never simplifies the world it's emotionally. I think it treats children as intelligent viewers, and it gives adults something deeper to unpack. I think for children, it makes the characters relatable because they're scared and awkward and overwhelmed. I think the spirit world feels very imaginative, but I think for adults, you have this sort of critique of consumerism and work culture, and No Face reflects this sort of loneliness and desire and how people can become corrupted by greed. I think when you take those two things, I think you have characters there's children you can relate with and themes that you can relate to as an adult. And I think that's why it works well for both. I think the movie understands that growing up often means learning confidence, and I think that's a really good thing for children to see, but as adults, I think that also affects them quite deeply as well.
Time. Adelaide, 30 seconds.
You picked one of the most mentally confusing movies possible for this question. There is a lot going on. It is a dense fucking movie. There are so many characters and locations and things to keep track of. Kids will be lost. I don't know any kid who loved this as a kid. At the end of the day, it's also scary, and your main character is called multiple names despite, just being the singular person. A little kid's gonna be so confused, like, wait, Sen, who's that? I met Chihiro. Where's the mom? Did they fucking eat them because they're pigs now? I think The Incredibles is still locked in for every age.
Joe, 30 seconds.
I think as an adult, I think The Incredibles loses some of its whimsy and some of its action because I think a lot of it is repetitive, and it's a lot of things that we've seen in other superhero movies going forward. But I think Spirited Away is unique, and I think you're going to continually revisit it. I think it's a much more layered world, and I think as a child, I think you have that pure wonder, and you still experience it as pure wonder. And there are characters in there that you can identify with, not so much as you can in The Incredibles. But for adults, I think when you unpack its themes, I think it's something you want to revisit, and I think that world is still full of wonder, and seeing those themes makes it more enjoyable.
Time. Oh my God, you guys. Okay, I'm not going to play horseshoes and hand grenades this time. I'm just going to bring you in like that. Hoofda. Can I phone a friend?
Is Evan DeGraff available?
Oh, shut up. That doesn't do you any favors.
Holy shit.
All right. Are we back to me? Yeah, this is the 7th question. Jesus. Okay. I would like to say great match. We've been here a while. I appreciate you guys. Thank you. This was a good match. It's going to end after this one way or the other. I went with Adelaide. I think when Adelaide initially dropped their answer, I was like, I don't know. Joe said Spirited Away. I said, I don't know. But I think Adelaide, in their first 45 seconds, really sealed it. And then in the 30 as well. But in the 45, saying, like, as a kid, you identify and connect with the kids, and you see pieces of yourself in them. And then as an adult, you can see yourself in the parents. And not only that, but that the music is exciting, the visuals are exciting, everything is cool and exciting for it. I thought I was waiting for Joe to say something, to respond to something, and it's hard in the speed round, and that's something that the speed round is. You got to be good at the speed round, but which both these players are. But Spence said something about Spirited Away in the 30 that I thought was really smart, which was like, this movie is dense. It's complicated. There's a lot going on that's super complicated. And the thing that they said was like, it's dark and it's scary. And I think it would have been really easy for Joe to be like, The Incredibles is kind of fucked up. Like, there are parts of that movie that's messed up. Like, at one point, Bob thinks that everyone's dead and he's all depressed and hanging there. And Joe just kind of like let that one slide. I think if he kind of threw that one in there, he could have had a better shot. But I think Adelaide just like edged it out. It was close for me. I think Joe did a great job on Spirited Away, talking about the visuals and just the complexity of everything being good for adults, but also still being an entertaining movie for kids. But I think Adelaide hit the personal aspect of it, which sold it on me. Mark, where are you at?
Yeah, no, this is a pretty good question, honestly. We could have had a 5-minute here, and it probably would have been just as well. I really kind of like what Tim was saying. I really liked Spence's beginning. I think I questioned the pick a little bit, but then attacked it on kind of seeing the movie two different ways in there. Although I feel like Joe then attacked it Spirited Away kind of how I would have done it, by bringing up, like, you got the world for the kids and you got kind of all the deep themes like for the adults. Like, it's something that's just very rich. And then ultimately, I think Spence's 30 just was a bit too much here. I don't like Spence threw out so many things on kind of on at least kind of the cut down of Spirited Away, and I think Joe got to some of them. I just don't think he got to all of it, and it just I think just Spence kind of machine gunned up at Joe's choice, and he took too many hits.
Okay, Kirk, your vote doesn't count. Where would you have gone and why?
Yeah, I'll be quick. I also went Spence. I think they just picked up the ball and ran on this one. Just right out of the gate, really broke down children, adults, what's there for each of them. And then I think did a really good job of attacking Spirited Away and poking the holes. And I think nothing against Joe, because I think Joe did a good job defending him. But I think Spence really had him just back on his heels from the get-go on this one, because they were so ready to just attack both sides of this argument. So I had to go Spence on that one.
All right, well, that means your winner and new Fanzone debate champion is Adelaide Spence. Normally we don't do these in regular matches this season, but we're gonna talk to the players real quick. Joe, I know I kind of threw some shade at it, maybe not shade, where I was like, you gotta defend, but listen, man, hitting 3 in the main round is huge. It was a great advantage, and Spence has proven to be incredibly good at the bonus round. So I don't think you should hang your head about this. I think you're a worthy champion. I think assuming you want to come back and keep playing this game, we're going to see you in this scenario again where you're playing for belts. I think you were fantastic. I think Adelaide just this year has been on a run. They're 4-0 this season. And so they were just kind of it was a great showing of not giving up, and they took you to town. I loved it. I thought you played phenomenal the whole time. This was great, man. How are you feeling?
No, actually, I feel fine. I think Spence. I don't think there was anything where I'm like. Sometimes you hear a judge say something, you're like, no, I definitely said that, or no, that must have been missed. That's annoying. But this time, I think Spence, especially that last question. I think if I'm sitting there on the judging panel, I'm giving it to Spence as well. I think the other speedrun one, yeah, I think there was a reason that one was 50. That one was a split decision, because I think that was much closer. I think I do better when I think I do better when there's prep time, and I can really have time to hone the argument. And I think Spence has just displayed now this sort of natural ability to just think on their feet and be able to come up with some really great points right off the bat. I've won speed rounds before, but they have proven to be the sort of the downfall for me as well. whereas I think Spence has the edge there. So absolutely full credit to them for what they did, and maybe a little bit better prep on just one or two of the ones, and we wouldn't have got to that speed round. So I'm happy for them, and looking forward to some shorter matches, hopefully in the tournament.
Yeah, Joe, listen, you'll be back. Is this something where you're hoping Spence is here at the end of the year? Because the tournament's not till Act 5. Again, I can't say 100% certain, but pretty 100% certain that you're going to be in the tournament. So is it something that you hope you can run and get back to Spence? Or are you just looking to play new people, find your craft? Like, what are you thinking?
That's tough because I love Spence, so I'd love for them to defend their title. On the other hand, they just beat me, so I don't want them to beat me again. So no, it would be good because I think I said this when I found out that I was going to be playing Spence, is that I think our taste in movies and the way we approach things is so different that it makes for really interesting debates, because we do come at things from two different sides, and the categories we put in are very different as well. I quite enjoy that. Yeah,
absolutely. Joe, congrats on a match well played. We're going to see you back real soon in the tournament, more than likely, I'm sure. Okay, let's bring in our winner and our new champion, Adelaide. Spence. Adelaide, you've been working for this for a while. This was your 8-6 math, 14th match, and your 4th win this year, which means that at the beginning of this year, you were 4-6. You just won 4 in a row to win the title. That's got to be pretty exciting.
I think you and I talked privately about how like this is quietly became one of the, across all of trivia, one of the things I'm most passionate about. And every single time I come into a match, I'm like, fuck, I wish I prepped more. Because when I'm in there, I can think of so many things that I want to say, and I wish I had more time to be better, which I think is a really shitty thing to say as the champion. But like I every match, I'm like, God, I wish I could have said this, or I could have added this point, or I didn't even think about that rebuttal. And I think coming into today, I was stressed because like this is my first debate title match, but also I realized taking a shower this morning that Joe is one of my white whales, is someone who I've played half dozen, 10, whatever, however many times, and I've literally never beaten him in anything, any division, even where you're like, really? You should have beaten him. I lost. And it was tough coming into today, kind of knowing that reputation. And the 2 points that I lost with Nicholas Sparks and 97, I was like certain, I was set. I knew I was going to win those, and I didn't. And it was really hard not to get in my head and give up, but I like the speed round. It might be a psychopathic thing to say, but I like the improv of it. So I knew if I could somehow get to that point, that it would all be worthwhile. And I'm happy I got that bond question, because it means that I'm actually able to do what I'm good at.
Yeah, absolutely. Spence, you are now on a list, not a long list, I should add. You're on a list among people like Kirk, like Cody Newberry, Jacoby Bancroft, Amaru Moses, Joe Farrelly, Tipper Call. But what do you think? What does it mean to you to be a champion in this league at the end of the day?
I think it's a few things. This has been like a very I think tumultuous is a good word. Obviously, I'm in a new setup. I just moved back to Charlotte, and things are strange. And I'm going to start making changes in my life to be a better adult, because I have kind of spent the past 6 years doing a shit ton of trivia. Ran my own league for a while. It's rough. It's hard. And kind of the thing that shockingly hasn't faltered is I'm falling more in love with debate. So finding something even like, it's not like fresh. I debuted back in 2021, I think, against fucking Holtzman. And I lost to Joe in my second match. There's been a lot of growth since then. I lost him in my third match. I beat Jacob West. But it's nice to beyond a second wind find something new that I can be passionate about in this community that we all share. Even after so long in it, I can still find new ways that I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Spence, congrats on becoming a champ. I maybe know what's coming next for you, but we'll
Not
talk
Jacoby.
about
Anyone but Jacoby. That's all I want.
it's not Jacoby. We'll talk about that.
Keep him away from me.
Congrats on the win and the belt. And we'll start with Mark. Mark, what are your final thoughts on the match today?
No, this was a great match, and do you think it is funny that Spence lost both? They lost both the categories they came in. We're down 3-1, ended up coming back to win a very really thrilling stuff. And honestly, Joe played a great match here today. Like, it did about as well as he could have. Maybe a couple of those split decisions go his way. We're here, but no. You got to admire Spence's resiliency here of just kind of keep fighting and yeah, ends up top. And yeah, I think it's great that we got Spence here as the champion.
And Kirk, final thoughts from you.
Yeah, fantastic match. Exactly what I expected from these two. Every point close. I don't think even the points that they lost, they argued very well. But I'm just really happy because, like I said at the beginning, I've played Joe several times, and I've watched him improve and every time and really work hard and really put the time and effort into this. And I never got to play Spence, but I spent a lot of time talking to them behind the scenes. I remember, 4 or 5 years ago, them bringing up, talking to me about points that they lost in certain debates that they just lamented and kind of like they alluded to, just wanted to have back and just wanted to do better. So I kind of feel like a proud dad of both these guys, both these players. I think Joe was a very worthy champion. I think he did a great job of earning the spot. I think he'll be back here, and I think Adelaide can go toe to toe with anybody in this league right now. So I'm very curious to see what they do moving forward.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to do it for us today at Fanzone Debate. Really exciting stuff, but we will be back very soon with another new match coming up next week. We got Brittany Tapley debuting. I'm excited about that. Looking forward to that. She's playing Brandon Dunlap. It's going to be really fun. I think that's going to be a fun one. Thank you so much to Joe and Adelaide, our new champ. Thanks to Mark and Kirk and everyone else who makes this show run. Your Bryans, your Nicks, your Kastners, all of you people who judge and play and everything. We appreciate you. We love you. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Hands, touching hands, reaching out, touching me, touching you, sweet Caroline.